Nobody's talking about these guys, but you got to know them, and we're going to tell you about them. What's going on with Derek Stingley? Is it fool's gold? Is he good to go? What's the story? We're going to give you a couple either-ors. This should be a fun day today with John Harris. Welcome to Locked On NFL Draft.
Let's go. Yo.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I am your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And of course, as always, got my guy, Ryan Tracy, with me, co-host right there. Also, y'all know what it is, man. It's Wednesday. By the time y'all hear this, it'll be Wednesday. Unless you tune in on YouTube, make sure you guys subscribe. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. But y'all know, every Wednesday, got our guy, John Harris, joining us, covers the Texans, does radio for them, has footballtakeover.com. He's doing all that excellent stuff. And also joining us here to talk about the draft. And we want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're getting into it, man. This is exciting stuff. And, we always have our kind of pre-talk about, okay, like we're going to talk about these things and these prospects and things like that. And I made the executive decision to move some things around. And I wanted to talk about first prospects that nobody's talking about, because I do think during the draft process, sometimes we do talk about, the same guys, and for good reason. Those are the guys that are going to get the limelight day one of the NFL draft. And players and fans, they want to know everything about those guys. Who are we missing out on? Like when my team drafts this guy in the first round, like I want to know everything about that guy. We try to deliver that information. But there are some guys that won't go until day 2 or day 3. And they don't get as much love throughout this entire process. But we want to bring those prospects to you today. So we'll take turns kind of going around. And this might be a longer segment, but I really want to hit on several guys that I feel like they should get a little bit more love. So John Harris, we're going to start with you. Who's your first guy?
So I was looking back at my Harris 100. And I was going through it, and I was getting you ready for footballtakeover.com, kind of making some adjustments, kind of moving some guys here or there. Wanted to make sure I got Kirby Joseph from Illinois, safety. He is definitely somebody that has been talked about. So I'm going through the list, and this is actually what kind of triggered my thought for the topic. And I'm going through, and I see the name Abraham Lucas, offensive tackle, Washington State. And I thought, man, there's not a soul in the world talking about Abraham Lucas. And that's what gave me the topic of, man, and also I have my friends here on radio. They have a segment. They always play this because radio hosts are like, man, nobody's talking about, and they call it Nobody's Talking About Guy. So this is kind of an homage to them. But Abraham Lucas played tackle at Washington State, played on the right side. And back in 2018, I think it was, Lucas was a sophomore, and Washington State came to play U of H in, at the time, it was the Advocare Kickoff Classic at NRG Stadium, which is always great. I get to go down on the sidelines. I can be down on the sidelines and do some of the video board stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I know Dana Holgerson, so I can chat with him. And so I'm standing down there on the field, and I look over, and I see Lucas. And I think at the time he was a sophomore. And I'm struck by how large he is. Like, he's enormous. Holy smokes. And then I watch him, I'm like, he's going to really struggle because he's too big. He looks kind of oafish. But then, man, he just blocked dudes all night. And he continued to do it throughout his career. I watched him against Thibodeau, and Thibodeau got him once, but for the most part, Lucas did a pretty solid job on Thibodeau. And I thought, man, nobody's talking about Lucas. It's all about Neil Naquanu, and then it's Trevor Penning because he's a WWE guy masked as a left tackle, and Charles Cross is up there. And then there's what other tackles to talk about? And I'm like, I saw Abraham Lucas's name, and I thought, man, nobody's talking about a guy that I think is going to go in the second round and end up being a right tackle for somebody and play for them for about 10 years. I think Abe Lucas is a guy nobody's talking about.
So when you say nobody's talking about him, like now, if there was a downside to his game, I know you talked about his size. Is there maybe a lack of athleticism? Does he have problems with maybe hand placement? Does he stumble? Does he have to fit a more specific offensive blocking scheme, whether it's power scheme or a zone scheme? Does he move well? What are some things that you took away from his game from that perspective?
I think Eric, I think the one thing about him, and I heard this, I can't remember how many years ago this was. I heard this from a friend of mine, and it's one of the, it's the simplest thing. And I'm talking about all those things you just talked about. And he looked at me and goes, no. He goes, does he get guys blocked? I'm like, yeah, he gets guys blocked. And then I kind of go into, well, he's, like you said, good hands. His feet pretty good. He goes, no. Does he get guys blocked? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's all that's important. And then I start seeing it in the league too. And I see some of the guys that end up making it in the league, and it's like they get guys blocked. Now, that's simplistic, but Lucas has pretty good length. It's not Neal or Iquanu. He's got pretty good athleticism, but it's not Trevor Penning. There's nothing that Abraham Lucas does on a field that you go, oh, man, that guy is a wonderful athlete, or, man, look at the length, or it's just all really good. And I think because of that, he's probably gotten lost in it because his testing was pretty good. He ran sub-5 flat in the 40. His length is, he's almost 34-inch arms, so solid, but not, he doesn't have,
enormous.
Like Julian Davenport for Bucknell did many years ago, like 37-inch arms. Everything's just good. And then sometimes in the draft, that's great. Just to have a guy that really doesn't have a massive, massive flaw, that's okay. He's not the most fleet of foot on the arc. I think he can probably stand to be a little bit more violent in the run game. But I think that might be able to come because the offense he played in at Washington State, the guy gets guys blocked. And it's not sexy. And I think partially because of that, he's kind of gotten glossed over throughout this process.
So
he's
Ryan,
he's the 8-year starter for you because he's good at everything.
Yeah.
And
I'd put down smooth for his feet. That's it.
Well,
You're like you said, it's not explosive, it's smooth. And I have him graded literally one step below Trevor Penning, and I think Penning's overrated, by the way.
Now, and there's nothing wrong with being that guy, right? If he can go in and start day one, awesome. If he can't, is he one of your 7 best offensive linemen that suit up on game day? And if he could be that guy and fit in multiple positions in a pinch, whether it's guard or tackle, I think there's a lot of value there. But yep. Ryan, who's one of your guys?
The guy that comes up for me, and I was doing the same kind of thing with the edges, like if they all fall, if they're all getting pushed up here, like who's going to fall to the second round? Who's going to be there for the Jets at 38 or something if that's what they decide to do? And the guy that stands out to me, it's because I think he belongs in a 3-4, unless you're going to really bulk him up with a 3-tech inside of him that you can put him in a 4-man thing. I think he could be multiple as well. He just doesn't have the intensity for me. He strikes decently, but he isn't crushing dudes. He can go around the arc, but he's not getting to that quarterbacking, lickety split. The guy that nobody talks about is Nick Bonito, and I think he's going to get home. I think he's really productive. I think he's more athletic. He tested better than I think people expected, but yet in this class, he keeps getting washed out by the other guys that have bigger names and honestly play on defenses that are more stout.
I like it. And everybody's going to need an edge rusher. There are a lot of guys that are going to fly off the board immediately. This is an edge-heavy draft, especially at the top of this class. And, in the most recent mock draft that I did, the first 4 picks, all edge rushers. Then I'm doing this other show, and I have Tony Pauline, and he's talking about it. He's like, he wouldn't be surprised if the first 4 guys were all edge rushers. I was like, well, funny you say that, because I just literally did a mock draft doing exactly that, where I had Hutchinson, Thibodeau, Walker, and Jermaine Johnson all fly off the board immediately. So having a guy like Bonito, there might be a chance that he gets pushed up boards because people are just thirsty kind of for these guys that are coming off of the edge. And if he can be another guy that can bring either a 3-down game to this, or even if it's, hey, you're a situational pass rusher day one, and we'll see if the rest of your game develops, there's a chance for him to potentially climb up some boards.
Absolutely. There's guys behind him. There's Myjai Sanders, there's D'Angelo Malone. Like there's guys that fit in a certain scheme that are just being overlooked because they're not the super long, the super explosive. Not everybody can be Trayvon Walker. They can still get to the quarterback though. So you need to have a QB hunter, whether it's 3rd down or every down. So I know you got DBs though, Croc.
Yeah.
Well, I think you guys,
you have to go DB.
y'all expect me to go DB, but I will eventually, because we're going to keep this going. We're going to keep this going in the next segment. But right now, who I want to talk about is Kennedy Brooks, running back out of Oklahoma. And, we've been hearing a lot about all these other running backs. Ford, the list goes on. I have a list of backs right here. And most of these other guys are being talked about. Kenneth Walker, Brees Hall, Isaiah Spiller, Pierce, Kyron Williams, even though he ran a 4.9 or whatever he ran. Tyler Algier, Zabir White, everybody. But who's talking about Kenny Brooks? And when you put on the film, obviously this is someone who was productive. All right, so this is just box score scouting. 197 carries, 1,250 yards, 13 touchdowns, over 6 yards per carry. But what I saw on film immediately, nice acceleration on slow to fast through. So that's one thing that jumped out to me immediately. Very patient. Very patient. I think he fits more of an outside zone type scheme where he can kind of feel the hole and then understands when to put his foot in the ground. And when he gets north right now. He gets vertical right now. And it's really cool to see. Now, he's not a power runner. All right, but he's definitely someone who can run through arm tackles. So he's not going to just, you're not going to count on him to push piles back, knock guys back. And he has a good size, about 5'9", 210 pounds. But he's not going to just lower the boom and run through guys. But what he will do, and consistently as well, he's going to run through arm tackles. He's going to get all the yards that you expect him to get. He will get those. He's a guy that understands how to run with how things are blocked up and kind of utilize his blockers as well. Get him free in space, and then he does the rest. Now, he's not a burner in the sense of he can get past the second level, and, there's a chance he might get caught. But he has just enough speed to where he can rip off big runs. So I was really intrigued while watching his film as someone where I was like, man, why aren't nobody talking about him? Also a player, fluid runner. Really liked how he was able to make guys miss in the open field. That was awesome. Good pass catcher. I think that might be an underrated part of his game. And he was more of the bailout guy. He wasn't like the first option or first read when the quarterback drops back to throw. But when you need a guy that's going to kind of bail you out, I'm in a sticky situation, let me check it down to him. He did a good job of not just catching the ball, but the run after catch as well. So Kenny Brooks, that was the first guy I have on my list where I was like, you know what, this guy he's pretty damn good. He's pretty damn good.
He's going to be an interesting fit in the NFL. I'm taking the year off, opting out of 2020 because of COVID I thought he was going to go to the league after that. But then he came back to Oklahoma. I thought it was a great decision. And it's going to be really, for a team like us, the Texans, that need a running back, Kenny Brooks would be a guy that I would take an absolute flyer on day 3 and have no qualms about it. Absolutely. I thought you were going DB, man. I thought you were going to go DB. I really did.
Well, listen,
but you went running back. You sort of surprised me with that.
But listen, I had so much fun with this. We're going to circle back around and kind of, bring up another few guys that aren't being talked about enough. We Derek Stingley, we'll get to him, but I think there's some more prospects that people need to know about. So keep it locked right here. Up next, that's what we're talking about. More prospects you need to know about. But first, definitely got to talk to y'all a little bit about Shady Rays. It's an independent sunglass company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed, durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else, Shady Rays' Insane Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair of sunglasses. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, 10 meals are donated to fight the hunger in America when you shop with Shady Rays, exclusively for our listeners, all right? Head over right now to ShadyRays.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off. You can't beat that for 2 or more pair of Shady Rays sunglasses, backed by over 150,000 verified 5 stars. You don't want to miss that opportunity. We also want to tell you a little bit about what's going on with the Locked On Network right now with the draft coverage by yours truly, Eric Crocker, and also my guy, Ryan Tracy. We'll be down in Dallas covering it at the studio. So we want to make sure that y'all tune in starting April 28th. All right. Got the Locked On Draft live coverage throughout the 2020 NFL Draft. All 3 days, y'all, in real-time analysis from, 2 guys right here, your local experts. All right. And for those of you dying to know who your team will take, catch the Odyssey and Locked On's NFL mock draft special hosted by my guy, the best voice in the business, Brian Peacock, and also former NFL scout Matt Williamson of the Peacock and Williamson Show, all week leading up to the very first pick. Make sure y'all tune in there. Coverage all week, starting Friday, April 28th, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, April 29th, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and April 30th, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Obviously, NFL mock draft all 3 of those days. Let's go. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the draft, man. It's really here. But to further get y'all ready for the draft and what we have going on, we're talking about some more prospects that people need to know about. All right, so I'll kick it off this time. You guys alluded to the fact, like, Croc, you ain't go cornerback. I was like, no, I ain't go cornerback, but this time I will. And I'm looking for my notes on him. I don't see it right now because he has crazy stuff he did, but I'm going with cornerback Faion Hicks, cornerback out of Wisconsin. And this is someone who, a couple years ago I watched him against Michigan, a big receiver. I can't remember exactly what receiver I was watching. Not Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Nico Collins, baby.
Nico Collins. There we go. So I'm watching Wisconsin against Michigan, and you got Nico Collins out there. And Faion Hicks, I mean, he's just getting up in them, knocking passes away on the goal line, being physical with him. He's small in stature, and I can see that on film. And the way I evaluate cornerbacks, I try not to know how big they are, how fast they are, anything like that. I want their film to take the notes for me. So I'm looking at him, and I'm noting good feet, nice change of direction, nice hips. Okay, got some explosiveness to him. Doesn't have an issue running with guys vertically. And then you look at his size, and it's like, oh, well, he's kind of vertically challenged. He's about 5'9", 195 pounds. Then he goes to the combine or pro day. And I am so upset I don't have his pro day numbers right in front of me right now. But he ran in the 4.3s. He jumped about 39.5 inches on the vertical. Broad jump was about 10.6. And I mean, all the explosiveness that you want to see from a guy that maybe lacks that vertical size, he had it. Now, shorter arms. So this is a guy who might be pegged to being a nickel. But having a nickel that has that legit outside coverage ability, as well as being able to play inside because he has a quick twitch, change of direction, hips, feet, and vertical speed to run with the slot phase that a lot of teams are trying to target now, I think Faion Hicks, man, he's somebody that a lot of people need to be talking about.
The thing that stands out the most to me about him is that I've watched film on all the other defenders on that defense, and not once did I write down, this kid can't play. Why is he out there? Like, he didn't stand out in a big way. He didn't jump off the film to me, but he didn't stand out in a bad way either. And like you said, I wouldn't have guessed that he was that disadvantaged, we'll call it, height and length-wise. But to make that up and not stand out in a negative way, that tells you that you got enough fire in you to take what you got and use it to your maximum.
So I have his measurables right here. 5'10", 195 pounds. I'm not sure if that's official height. I think he's a little bit shorter than that. I know his weight was 192 at his pro day. 40-yard dash, 4.38. Yep. 3-cone, 6.62. So you talk about that short area change of direction. He has that. Broad jump, 10.6, vert, 39.5 inches. And his shuttle, 3.94, sub 4 second shuttle. So, I mean, we're talking about elite change of direction. Not talking, I mean, who has mentioned Faion Hicks throughout this draft process? Come on, let's go.
Just you, Crock.
John here.
He redeemed himself with going with a DB.
Yeah.
With Faion Hicks. That was pretty good. All right, Ryan, you want to go or you want me to go?
No, I want to hear what you got because I'm too short-winded on these guys.
Okay. I'm going with a guy that there are going to be some listeners that hear this and go, wait, what? Who? Now, I preface this by saying that scouts went to Texas A&M and have gone to Texas A&M this entire fall, spring, last spring, summer, whatever, and raved about, oh, man, they got prospects everywhere. They got DeMarvin Leal, they got Spiller, they got Kenyon Green. They got all these prospects everywhere. And sitting over near the sideline was a 6'5", 265-pound, long-arm defensive end, wear number 2, by the name of Michael Clemens. Now, Clemens hasn't played a lot of football, and he had to go the JUCO route. And there's some stuff in his background that look, he doesn't have like Kim Kardashian luggage, but there's a little bit of a ham purse here or there that he's going to have to talk through. But he's a quiet guy and plays his guts out. And when it comes to, this is going to sound shocking because DeMarvin Leal is a guy that everybody's talked about in top 50. I think I have him right at the cusp of the top 50. I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Clemens is a guy that gets more acclaim or, from a draft perspective than Leal does, gets drafted ahead of Leal. I wouldn't be surprised if they're drafted in the same round and Clemens doesn't go earlier. He is nasty. He's violent. And I was at his pro day, and I was watching with a guy named Billy Lucci who covers the Aggies like no other. And I'm watching Clemens work out, and he's got about 2% body fat. And I mean, his waist is about this size, and his shoulders are out to here. And I'm like, holy smokes, this dude is an athlete. And he's put on a show. I mean, he's running the 4.7 range at 265. I'm like, wow. And I like this film. I love this film. He is a true 4.3 end, and he is violent, and he's long, and he can get to the quarterback. And then the testing go along with it. And I thought, man, there are going to be a few teams. There's one in our division that I can almost guarantee will fall in love with him. That's the Indianapolis Colts. I guarantee the Colts will love Michael Clemens. And it's not somebody anybody is mentioning. But when you hear Michael Clemens' name on draft weekend, you're going to think, wait a second. Wow, I heard that before. Where did I hear that? You heard it right here. Michael Clemens, Texas A&M. Keep an eye on number 2. That dude's a freak of nature. I mean, freak of nature. And a wonderful, wonderful, quiet young man. I think a team is going to love him. I'd love him in Houston, actually. I mean, he would fit for us. But I think Indianapolis has got to be – he's the exact type of player Indianapolis is looking for. No body fat, built like a Greek god, productive in college. I think he ends up in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That length factor – I think is what Chris Ballard's looking for. They got some fish to fry up there. Got some jobs to accomplish.
Oh, yeah.
I want to touch back on a guy that we have talked about in the past, but it was like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he went out the door, and I don't understand it because as I went through my rewatch this week on the interior defensive lineman, I keep coming back to Perry Winfrey's up there. DeMarvin Leal's up there. I even see Zach Carter, Fedarian Mathis up there. Folks, Travis Jones' film is better than all of them. And we keep not talking about him. I don't know why. I don't get it. I shouldn't say it because I'd like to see him at 50 in Kansas City. I'm just saying. But, we saw him at the Senior Bowl, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Wrecked it at the Senior Bowl.
And since then, poof, nobody's bringing him up. And it seems that he's falling down, like, the media boards. I don't think he's falling down team boards. He shouldn't be because he is that good. And I think he's one of the few guys on the interior that I have come to find that I think it falls off after that 4th, 5th guy. And you're looking around going, okay, who can actually get some pass rush done from the interior spots? He's one of the ones, I got him up there right behind the guys from Georgia, and I think he's going to make a bigger splash than anybody thinks that he will right now. We might not be talking about him till now. We'll be talking about him on draft night, I guarantee.
Well, I'll tell you who else was talking about him. Eric Crocker. Where'd I have him? Travis Jones.
You always got to go back, don't you?
Travis Jones. I had to send in my top player list to Ross. Had to email it to him. Travis Jones. I have him number 3 defensive tackle in this draft. So clearly, I'm pretty high on.
Let's go. Let's go,
Eric Crocker. But when you go to UConn, you're not going to get.
That's what it is.
As much love.
That's what
there is one more guy that I want to talk about. I'm going to wait till we get on the other side of here. All right, so you guys are going to have to keep it locked right here to find out who that guy is, as well as we're going to do our pick 'em, our either or. I love when John Ross does this. But first, definitely want to talk to y'all a little bit about Built Bar. All right, and I know by now we talk about all the time. I'm sure our listeners have ordered Built Bars and have tried the puffs. But if you haven't, you are missing out on the best tasting, not just Built Bar. In the notes it says best tasting Built Bar. No, it's the best tasting protein bar that you'll ever have. All right, puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They are fluffy, they are marshmallow, and they are not just a protein bar. They are a treat and covered with 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, and much more. They are also good. They're going to be your new favorite as well. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. And yes, that includes the Built Bar Puffs, 100% real chocolate. They are low in carbs, high in protein, and you can replace that with any candy bar, man. I mean, because they taste sweet, but they're good for you. And if you are into kind of counting your macros, I have somebody that's going to start working on that with me right now, working on count my macros, see if I can kind of get better results with this working out. If you're into count macros, you're going to be blown away by the high in protein, high in fiber, and low carbs, low calories that these Built Bars have. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to any candy bar that you're thinking about eating. 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs. Not good for you. All right. And all kind of awesome flavors for Built Bars. All right. Mint brownie, coconut almond, and new this month you got white chocolate cookies and cream. They are all delicious and they are always coming out with new flavors. At Built.com, they're trying to cater to people like me that love to snack and they want things that taste good first. All right. And once they make it taste good and it's delicious, they say, all right, Croc, we got you. We want to make sure not only does it taste good for you, but it's healthy. And they do it every single time. Go to Built.com right now. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off of your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, guys. So I told you I have one more guy I have to throw out there because he had an injury. And I think that injury is making guys kind of forget about this guy just a little bit. And he goes by the name of Justyn Ross out of Clemson. This is a guy who's 6'4", 205 pounds, and he's had some injuries. And I know that's probably the big concern, but because people didn't see him and he still came out, it's like what he did, it just never happened. I mean, he was a big-time guy for Trevor Lawrence as a true freshman. I mean, winning out there on the outside against Alabama cornerbacks and good ones at that. Talk about a high point specialist. You know, T. Higgins is a guy that played alongside of him. And when he was a true freshman, when Ross was a true freshman, you couldn't tell like who's the better receiver. They're both tremendous. They're both great at the catch point, and they both have true size. And when you look at this guy, Justyn Ross, and if you can get him for the low, and I mean, by this time, is he a day 3 pick? Is he an early day 3 pick, 4th round? I mean, that is the ultimate steal because this is a guy that has some big time ability, but he's getting dinged because of the injury. So if you are a team that's picking in the 4th round and he's still on the board, you got to go get this guy. Take a flyer on him. Hopefully he's back healthy. I believe it was him that had the spinal fusion. So, I mean, scary stuff. But if he's healthy, big time. That is big time. So I had to, you know, I like to talk about my corners. I like to talk about my receivers. I had to throw Justyn Ross in there.
Well, I know a team near me that's got pick 107 and pick 108 in the 4th round, the 2nd and 3rd pick of the 4th round. And if Justyn Ross is there, I wouldn't have any issue at all. Now, medically, if the medicals check out, and that's the last thing I will ever really comment on because nobody knows. But if his medicals check out, I'm sitting there at the top of the 4th. Shoot, I got pick number 80. There are going to be some decent receivers around number 80 as well. But, man, 107, 108, if Justyn Ross is still there, I don't have any problem. You got Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks. You got those two to start. You got Brevin Jordan at tight end. But, man, you throw in a guy like Justyn Ross. I mean, look, the Bengals had Tyler Boyd, and they had T. Higgins, and they had a sieve at left tackle. So they could have gotten Penei Sewell last draft, and they went Jamar Chase. So you can't have enough pass catchers. You need an offensive tackle, and they're hurting a little bit trying to find that. But you can't have enough wide receivers. So, man, if Justyn Ross were there, I would absolutely take him. All right, you guys ready for either or? Here we go. You ready?
Oh, hold on. I got one more question for you. Sorry about this, guys. I know we're prolonging this thing.
Of course not.
But the Houston Texans, I have a question about Houston Texans because I'm driving, and they're talking about the quarterback, Davis Mills.
Yes.
And here's a 2-part question here. One, have they done enough around him to ultimately have him successful, right? So that's the first one. I know they brought back Cooks. Shout out to Cooks, 209, Stockton, California, North Side. Let's go.
That's my dude.
All right, so I know they brought back Cooks. But it's like, okay, who else is going to help him? And who is going to help this quarterback that people are all, I think they're kind of writing off because, well, you know, he wasn't a day 1 pick. But out of all the rookie quarterbacks that played an extended period of time, I'd say out of all of them, I mean, outside of Trey Lance only played 2.5 games. So he's not going to count, even though he did this as well. But
and he beat us, so yeah.
Well, yeah. But, and people they're like discounting that win for whatever reason. But Davis Mills is only one of 2 rookie quarterbacks to throw more touchdowns than interceptions. And it's like, he doesn't get the same kind of encouragement that he's going to get better as the other guys, even though he came in there as the guys that started. He had the least experience. He had the most proof. And, you know, people would throw out teams and weapons and things like that. And I feel like Houston was just as bad as Jacksonville, was just as bad as the New York Jets. I mean, it wasn't a great situation there. He had one guy to throw the ball to, and whoever the hell was running behind him, I think it was Rex Burkhead or whoever. So he doesn't get the same love. But how do they feel in Houston about Davis Mills?
My pat answer basically is my answer, and that is he's done enough to start in 2022, Eric, and be the guy for 2022. Has he earned face of the franchise status? No, he's not there yet, but he's on his way. And I think what happened for Davis was he got thrown in the fire early because Tyrod Taylor got hurt, and he had to face the Browns defense for a half, then the Panthers defense when the Panthers defense was number 1 in the league early in the season, then the Bills, then the Patriots, then the Cardinals, and the Rams. Those are all the defenses that the rookie had to face, and it just didn't go well. But he went to the bench, watched Tyrod.
The Patriots game. That went well. Yeah,
he was great in that game. I mean, he had 125 pass rating 3 times. That was the most any quarterback had. Mac Jones did it twice. Davis did it 3 times. No other rookie hit that number last year. He was brilliant against the Patriots, just couldn't get the win. But the point being, he faced all these great defenses, and his confidence kind of got shaken. They went back to Tyrod for a few weeks. It didn't go well, so they went back to Davis to finish the season. And it was like Davis went back in and was like, bleep it. I'm just going to do what I can do. And all of a sudden, you started seeing this young quarterback emerge. It was like he beat the Chargers, didn't have Cooks that day, beat the Chargers, had one of his great days. We're down 21-0 at the half against Tennessee. He brings us back in the second half to get within 3, but our defense couldn't get us the ball back. He scored 25 points in the second half against Tennessee's defense. That was top 5. He has shown a lot of promise. He's not all the way there and being that guy, but bringing Cooks back on an extension. Nico Collins had a decent rookie year, can get better. And then Brevin Jordan was a rookie out of Miami, who the last half of the year they started seeing some things from. They're going to be able to grow together. The key was the offensive line. Larry Tunsil was hurt basically all year. Getting LT back, moving Titus Howard back over to tackle, things will improve. Now I just need a running game. And like you said, I love Rex. Rex is one of my favorite people on the face of the earth. Rex can't be our starting running back. Rex can be a complimentary guy. We need, and that's why we've talked a lot about running backs in this, because we could use some running backs for sure to put some pieces around him. He's not there yet, but he is a lot further along than anybody ever anticipated him being, especially being a third-round guy. And Pep Hamilton now becomes the offense coordinator, and Pep is running a lot of the elements that Davis ran at Stanford in the offense, and so that should help him too. So we'll see after this year, because actually I got a question right off the top on an either or that's kind of fits into this category in some sense. If Davis hits, it's a third-round quarterback. We have multiple first-round picks over the next 3 years. If we don't have to put one of those on a quarterback and he starts to all of a sudden we're right where we need to be, but it's on him to make those strides. So we'll see whether that happens or not. And it leads me to the first either or, because I hear this a lot here in Houston. Maybe not as much as I used to. Ryan, I'll start with you. Will you either tank the season to put yourself in a position to draft Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, or you have some draft ammo, trade up, go get Malik Willis or quarterback of your choice and start the rebuild now?
It's a tough one. These are professionals with pride. I don't tank, period.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. If you have a team that can walk out there and purposely not put out their best, it's a team you don't want 3 years from now because you just taught them to lose on purpose.
Yeah.
That ain't what I'm looking for. So, yeah, put it all in, trade what you got to trade, get the guy that you want, or get what you think is passable to get you through, put the best product you can on the field, and be prepared to then move up next year for Young or whoever you need.
There's a quarterback that can contribute to wins that's available for trade in the South Bay right now. Whereas number 10 has a pretty jawline. Goes by the name of Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. I mean, I couldn't tank either, but that's been also part of it too that I've said is, look, we have multiple picks in 2023. If Davis, for some reason, takes a complete left turn and it just doesn't go well. Now, it's not quote-unquote tanking, but if it just doesn't go well, if he doesn't play well, we're going to end up with 2-3 wins and we're going to be in position to draft a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud, which I don't really want to go through another 4-win season. I've been through that the last 2 years. But would I trade up to go get Malik Willis and kind of start it right now? I mean, for me, I'm going to roll with Davis Mills because he's shown me something that I'm not going to give up those draft assets and those draft assets to move up and get Malik. I'm going to live with Davis. And if it doesn't go well, then I'm in position. I may not tank per se, but it is something a lot of people around here, have talked about. Like, hey, you guys need to tank and go get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to roll the dice with Davis Mills and see what he can do. Because if he hits and it's a third-round pick that hits, my gosh, you have everything that you want at that point with all this draft capital. Okay, we had talked a little bit earlier. We were going to mention this, so we can kind of do it in an either or. This one's very simple. And Eric, you play DB, so you go second. Ryan, Stingley or Sauce?
At this point, I still got to go Sauce because it's a long way away from that guy that wore 24, and I'm just not sure. Now, if he's on a visit and you can get sure and you can look him in the eye, he's like, I'm 100%, I'm going to be that dog that you saw 3 years ago, then okay. But I don't have that kind of access to one Derek Stingley, so I'm staying with Sauce Gardner.
Eric, Sauce or the remade Derek Stingley?
I don't know who the remade Derek Stingley is, so I think I'm going to lean towards Sauce as well. And that's tough because Derek Stingley is a guy I really like. I mean, his freshman tape was tremendous. And when you see a guy that type of athletic ability to be able to get in phase, get his head around, be comfortable with doing those things and make plays on the ball at the elite level that he did, that's hard to turn down. But I just think at the end of the day, I don't know what version of him I'm getting, whether it's a remade one, whether it's number 24. I don't know. So I'm going to have to lean towards Sauce Gardner just because I know who he is. I know where he excels at. I know where he needs to improve at. And I'm comfortable with those things, at least knowing that's exactly what I'm getting.
All right. I've never played blackjack with either one of you. I know I've never played blackjack with either one of you, but I know exactly what you're going to do at 16. You're both going to stay. Me, I'm going to take Derek Stingley. I'm going to go off the fact that 2019 is a true freshman. That was there then, and as long as he proves the physical traits, he'll get whatever he had back. Now look, it's close. It's like 99 to 98. I mean, it's that kind of closeness with Stingley and Sauce. But I was 16. Hit me with that 5. Hit me with that 5, pit boss. Hit me with that 5. I get to 21. Now I might crap out. It's happened before. And it's funny because I would normally go Sauce. I would normally go with the more sure thing. There's something about Stingley though that I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. And my hope is that teams kind of feel like you guys do, and they pass and they pass and they pass, and he gets near 13, and the Texans then move up ahead of Minnesota at number 12 and go grab him. That would be a huge coup. But I would go Stingley on that one. Okay, this one's simple. Eric, you were just talking about a guy that wore number 10, Jimmy Garoppolo. So this one's quarterbacks. You have a quarterback in San Francisco at Trey Lance. Ryan, you have obviously Patrick Mahomes. But your team needs a quarterback. Matt Corral or Desmond Ritter?
Desmond Ritter.
What offense am I running? Or with this
I
new
see-
fancy
well,
spread
Ritter,
RPO stuff?
Well, Ritter, I don't even think it matters, right? Because, I mean, that's a guy we've seen him play under center. I thought he looked smooth playing under center at the Senior Bowl. He can make all the throws. His arm is big enough. He has plus athleticism to make the all-scripted runs and plays from that. Like, you get him out on the move, boots and things like that. You see him throw the contested ball to our guy, Alec Pierce. I mean, he does a lot of really good things. Now, are the things that you obviously want to clean up? Yes. But if I'm a team like, hell, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, if there's no Malik Willis, how do you not take Desmond Ritter at pick 20? So
The question is, how do you not modernize? What's the biggest fad in the NFL? Those RPOs. What's the next best thing that's the next hardest to defend in this league right now? It's the RPOs. Des Ritter isn't an RPO guy. I mean, he can run them, sure. But you want a weapon, and you got other things you got to build on, and maybe your O-line isn't ready, and maybe your wide receiver core isn't ready. Corral steps in there and he'll make you something out of nothing. If he can learn to stop hitting people on purpose as a quarterback, he'll be fine. So that's where I'm coming from.
It's funny because we were talking about, nobody's talking about. For the longest time, Matt Corral was that guy. Nobody was talking about Matt Corral. He's had the injury in the Sugar Bowl, didn't perform at Senior Bowl because he's still rehabbing the injury. Nobody was talking about Matt Corral, and it really was in the last probably 3 or 4 days. I almost said it, and then it was like last 3 or 4 days, we've seen, hey, Matt Corral's this and Matt Corral's that, and I'm like, there's more talk about Matt Corral. Maybe it was the injury that kind of kept him off the radar screen. I don't know, but Ryan, I'm with you. If I'm going to run a lot of RPO game and I'm throwing a lot of slants, interior routes, Matt Corral throws those as well as anybody I've seen. Now, the full gamut of things, I don't know, but I trust Ritter. I trust Ritter immensely. Like, I might not run the perfect offense for him, but I know whatever car I give to him, he's going to figure out a way to keep that car on the road going in the right direction, whereas Corral could careen that thing off into a ditch. Now, I might fly. I might go faster than a car I've ever gone, but I might end up in the ditch. I trust Ritter inherently, but I think Corral's kind of been slept on a little bit. All right, last one. Ryan, we'll start with you. You're a quarterback. You can have either Phillip Rivers' arm strength or Eric Crocker's throwing acumen. Which one are you picking?
You saw the video today.
You have seen Croc throw.
I have seen Croc throw.
How well did it work out for Phillip? I'll take Crocs.
All right. Croc, you want your throwing acumen, or do you want Phillip Rivers' little pistol whip throw?
I'll take mine over the push, but he did well with it, right? I mean, he had a borderline Hall of Fame career, shot putting passes downfield, and I like his tenacity, his energy, and the trash talking and things like that. So I like Phillip Rivers. But yeah, I did it for those of you who don't know. You follow me on Twitter at Eric_Crocker. I put out a little video, man, and it was kind of like my quote unquote pro day, having fun with my quarterback guy, Greg Pinelli. Is really big on quarterbacks. And I mean, he kind of worked with me for like a few minutes leading up to that. I just always brag about me being a great athlete and like, man, I can do anything. I can throw the football. So he's showing me different things, man. But I will say this before we get out of here. I learned a ton about what it feels like, right? When I talk about receivers and corners, I can watch it and I know what it feels like to be in their shoes and to guard that type of guy, or what kind of things give a certain guy trouble, or man, I wish I could have did this better that this big guy is able to do, me being a 6'2", 200-pound corner when I was playing. Like I can feel all those things. Quarterback, I can't feel quarterback, but when you have somebody that works directly with you on your mechanics, right? And it's like, okay, I'm throwing the ball, and he's like, well, do this, but coil your shoulder this way, and then lock that wrist, and then snap it off, and then you just boom, see a difference in just your velocity just from changing those type of things. It was tremendous, and it gave me more respect for quarterbacks and what they have to do to like be right, whether it's tying their feet to the throws, the shoulders, like all of those things, the accuracy, throwing those drive throws over the middle, like those are tough. I have a whole new respect for quarterbacks, and that was with me having nobody, rushing at me. So I can only imagine when you have a pass rush coming at you. But that was fun stuff. I think everybody should experience that. But man, we're out of time here. Definitely want to thank everyone for locking in and making us your first listen of the day. And again, make sure you follow us all on Twitter as well, at Eric_Crocker, at Ryan Tracy NFL, at J Harris Football. I got it with the football takeover over there. But when we come back tomorrow, we have our guy Rob Rang with us, and he always has his articles and things we're going to touch on. Obviously, the more we get closer to the draft, talking prospects. But until then, we'll see y'all next time. Peace.